Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning. Brandy always beats me to it. Always.
I know. Well, you've been out of the game for a little bit, but
I know. I'm
that
rusty.
is exciting because we have Wil back guest hosting. And Jamie Lane.
Yeah, it's good to be back while Jamie's out. It's good to see my favorite faces on a Monday morning. How's everyone doing? How's the weekend?
It was great. I actually have a surprise I didn't tell you guys off air, but I got another tattoo.
Whoa.
GMH tattoo?
Yes,
Not a
please.
GMH tattoo. No, my friend Taylor and I have been friends for like 27, 28 years. And we got little, like really kind of like elegant bouquets that are sisters, not twins. So they have like, they're similar designs, but, and a good friend of ours did it. So that was my fun weekend activity.
Dang. Was this a sober activity or was this a somewhat?
Oh, so
under the
very,
influence?
very sober. We've been talking about it for like almost 10 years and we finally did it. So
thank goodness.
I'm still waiting on that Skift tattoo, Will, but you know, we'll table that for another
he has to have the fine print underneath GMH.
That's next. That'll be right under the old GMH tattoo. It says a Skift podcast. We'll have a new tattoo artist come out because the other guy that did it with Steve and Sam and Jeff, I don't think he was in the most sober mind, if you know what I'm saying. So, definitely a regrettable choice of that artist. But
Will, tell us about Touch and Dirt this weekend.
Yeah, for the listeners that don't know, I've been getting into mountaineering, so it's been fun, and broken some new boots on a 14er this weekend, and I have the blisters to prove it, so pretty exciting. But yeah, no, been loving finding new hobbies, and of course, my mom kind of made the comment. She's like, you can't just find a cheap hobby, you have to find the most expensive one with all the gears and all the things. I'm like, yeah, basically.
The gear makes it fun. The
100%.
gear makes it fun.
Yeah, you got to have something. So... what about you guys outside of the tattoo? Michael, anything fun? Dadder Day was obviously hopefully a thing. You guys had your Dadder Day?
We did it for watching the football game instead.
All right.
Coffee in the morning. So had some folks over, grilled out. My mom moved to town last week, so helping unpack a little bit. Got grandma here to help out with the kiddos now. So
nice.
It's a little bit easier.
Big win at the Goldin household. I like it. Well, to make a natural segue after our weekends, we are excited because obviously Sunday was a pretty hectic day for the industry and some news cycles as we got the news late yesterday afternoon that the deal between Sonder and Marriott Bonvoy has ended effective immediately today. Well, yesterday, but all the guests currently at properties that were, happening overnight have to check out today. And so we have a special guest on the podcast, Sean O'Neill, who is a senior hospitality reporter here at Skift and has been covering this deal for quite a while, and Sonder obviously as well. So I'm excited to bring him on. You guys ready to see and talk to Sean?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
There he is.
Oh, there we go. Sean, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you. How are we doing today?
Thank you, Will. Hi, Brandy. Hi, Michael. How you doing?
Hello. Good to see you.
Morning.
Thanks for having me on.
How busy was your Sunday with the news?
Sunday got a little hectic. Yeah. I've been with Skift for nearly 9 years, and I've sort of tracked the rise of Sonder. I wrote the first article about Sonder and Skift back when they were still raising funds, and the CEO Francis Davidson was coming up with it was just a young kid with a dream from French Canada and a French Canadian kid. So. And they had a plan to take over the world, but it seemed to come crashing down on Sunday.
Yeah. So just for the sake of the listeners that are listening in right now, kind of walk us through what we know currently.
So a few minutes before going on air here, I checked in with Marriott's headquarters to ask, could they give any insights into, why did Marriott pull the plug on Sunday? So for any listeners and viewers who didn't know, for quite some time now. Marriott has had a loyalty licensing deal with Sonder. So they made a deal where they agreed to license their brand name to Sonder. So the properties were called Sonder by Marriott Bonvoy. And the deal was that Sonder would sort of run the properties, and Marriott would send customers their way. So Marriott wasn't hands-on in the control of things. And it does appear from the outside, the way things went down on a Sunday very abruptly, that maybe they were a bit blindsided by something. Now, all they would say is that they used the word a default. And so Marriott needed to cut the deal because Sonder had a default, but they wouldn't explain exactly what the default was. There was financial filings that my colleagues here at Skift have been pouring through. And back in August, Marriott had sort of like made a deal, like Sonder was having trouble keeping its end of the bargain of paying fees for every guest that sort of like stayed in one of their rooms. And so they said, okay, we'll let you delay paying these things for us. It's sort of essentially, we're going to give you $23 million in credit to sort of play with to try to regain your balance here. But you have to keep some commitments. And there was a commitment coming up on November 15th that the company was going to have to raise $30 million in capital from some source for ongoing operations. But there were also a bunch of other commitments in there. There was a bunch of other potential triggers for killing the deal. And I asked the Marriott spokesperson to explain, what went wrong, and they haven't come forward. Sonder's not talking. I called the Sonder main line this morning, and they say because the deal being cut, they referring all questions to Marriott. They're no longer checking the phone line, which is just really atrocious behavior. And so, I know Brandy, you and Michael have been you've been following what the sort of the social media reaction to this. I'm curious what you, Brandy, and Michael, what is your take on all of this?
Well, I was scouring Reddit, deep in the Reddit hole. So obviously it's not official court filings or company press releases, but it does seem like Sonder is done. And their employees are posting, that they have been laid off, trying to there's a discourse that's really interesting between the Sonder employees and Marriott guests. Everyone is kind of left in the lurch there. So it does seem that something really abrupt happened over the weekend. Yeah. We will get into it later. I think that there's probably been some signs, but whatever has been kind of slowly rumbling along in the background definitely came to a head over the weekend.
Yeah. My first reaction was, how unlike Marriott is it to leave guests completely high and dry?
Yeah.
So if they had to rip the Band-Aid that harshly, something horrible has gone on. And I can't imagine it's simply a bankruptcy from Sonder. It may be, and Sonder might have misrepresented funds, or who knows. But to leave guests on a Sunday afternoon saying you have to check out today, like don't even finish your reservation, I feel like there's a much, much bigger story that we're going to hear.
For sure. One of the Sonder guests was commenting on this Reddit thread, like, I'm staying at a Sonder, but I'm in another state right now. Like, how do I get back and get all of my stuff? And there's just going to be, I'm going to be really paying attention to this thread because I think it's going to get even messier. We're not even 24 hours into this.
There were lots of Twitter comments of, I'm platinum or I'm titanium. I'm supposed to check in 2 weeks. What am I supposed to do? Well, in 2 weeks, you're fine. People they're staying in there today or last night. They got a notice that said tomorrow you have to leave. These people could be visiting their family, having a child at a hospital, and the last thing they want to think about is I've got to move all my stuff and go somewhere else. So again, that's what leads me to think it's not simply a bankruptcy closing shop, because there has to have been better foresight if that was the whole story. So, Sean, any curious takes on that?
Well, I would agree with you. I mean, I stayed in a Sonder one time, and after I checked out, I realized I had left my bag inside. And trying to go back and get anyone to help get the locks to
Yeah.
work. And it was I was sort of roaming halls trying to find someone, trying to speak with one of the housekeepers in Spanish to let me in. It was so I can only imagine that in this situation it's utter chaos. And yes, one of the Sonder properties was near the Mayo Clinic, and you can imagine people near hospitals, like they're dealing with, they're attending weddings. Like this is it tarnishes the Marriott brand, because Marriott has, I don't remember in my lifetime Marriott ever having done this abruptly, pull the brand. So it's kind of difficult. Have you guys been when you were tracking, Brandy, some of the chatter on Reddit and social media, like have you seen any examples of messages from some of the communications?
Yeah, I think actually Will has the email pop up, and this was actually also posted. It's the starting thread on the Reddit thread that I was at. So, Will, if you want to pull up the official communications.
Yes. So shout out to Curtis, who posted this on LinkedIn. The email that current Sonder guests got last night. I'll basically summarize it for our listeners who are not able to view. But it says, we regret to inform you that Marriott's agreement with Sonder Holdings has ended. The Sonder properties are no longer part of the Marriott Bonvoy portfolio. As a result, we are unable to continue your reservation beyond today. And we are kindly requesting that you check out of the property as soon as you are able. Now, this was I would say a late email. And, that's just a summary. It's a lot longer for the listeners, so feel free to find it on our video version of the episode, or basically almost anywhere online. You can go to Reddit and find it pretty easily. So it's a shocking response for a brand as prestigious as Marriott, as big as they are with their loyalty program. Sean, you cover a lot of the loyalty stuff within the hotel sector. It kind of blows my mind. And especially, my first hotel property, I was a Marriott front desk agent, and you were not trained to leave guests like this. So it's kind of the exact opposite of their brand standards. So I'm blown away. I'm blown away by it.
Sean, Sonder was, I don't know if it was the first of its kind, and I'd love you to share if you know who it was, but there's definitely been a trend of licensing deals versus franchising. And it's great for both sides because it's kind of a try before you buy, hitching the wagon to a major flag. But it's also, you don't have all the control, maybe don't have all the financial insights. We know that Sonder had a lot of trouble simply sharing their financials publicly time after time. They were quarters behind on earnings reports. Where do you think licensing deals with major flags go from here?
That's a great question, Michael. And I was talking to one of my colleagues at Skift Research, who also was sort of thinking along similar lines as an analyst. So these loyalty license deals, you asked what was the first one? I believe it was IHG with Iberostar pre-pandemic with an all-inclusive deal. But I would, all off the top of my head, but they've been around for a considerable period of time, and for example, IHG, within the past year, they've sort of done some of these lightweight things where they're not actually taking over the company, just like it's with Sonder, but it gives them they're sort of like marketing on behalf. It's a little bit white labeled. Marriott, probably one of the biggest ones right before Citizen M was they did a deal with MGM Resorts. And so you can stay at the MGM Resorts properties, but they're run completely by a different company. Marriott is not training, any of the employees, but you get opportunities to, earn and redeem points and book through Marriott. Some of the other examples, I think Michael on the show in the past, you've talked about AutoCamp, you've talked about Trailborne. These are smaller. Some of them are sort of, you might call them glamping style experiences, outdoor experiences. And so some of the other companies, Hilton, Hyatt have tied up with these entities. And there's a bit better diligence is needed moving forward. I would agree with you, Michael.
That's the last thing people want to hear in these licensing deals, because a lot of these are smaller companies growing fast. Sonder was very much a grow at all costs type of company. They raised from inception. They raised 9 different rounds, $680 million. They SPAC'd in Q1 of 2022, just shy of $2 billion. I think the valuation came in a little lighter than what they were thinking. And they peaked somewhere around 12,000 keys, 12,000 rooms.
A success story by many, many measures. Like, I think as we go into this like kind of death spiral that they're in right now, by many standards, a very successful story. Just a real epic crash out at the end.
Yeah.
Well, and never capable of turning a profit. And
Yeah.
They've been public since January of 22. So what, almost 3.5 years, almost 4 years. Still couldn't turn a profit. You usually go public. If you're losing, you got to turn it in the first year or two. And they've been unable to turn it around. So,
well, I remember, Sean, when we were covering this story, when Marriott gave Sonder the lifeline, this was a big deal. This was a huge saving grace for them. And this was kind of where our optimism kicked in. We're like, okay, like Marriott, the big brand that they are, they just saved Sonder. Like, Sonder's going to be good. It's going to be fine. But as of this morning, the website still is not active with listings. It still redirects to Marriott Bonvoy and no inventory at all. And we have this clip from you on stage at Skift Global Forum with the Marriott CEO talking about the Sonder deal and how they were doing due diligence. And I think this is going to play into kind of Michael's question of, what is diligence going to look like for licensing deals moving forward? And so if you guys are ready, I'm actually going to play this clip and then we can probably briefly discuss before wrapping up, but here we go.
I have a question about your recent deal with Sonder.
Yeah.
So when I've talked to some people, and I think maybe in the audience there might be in two camps, people who are really into hotel development, several of them have said to me, it's like a genius level deal, like they're getting this franchise and they're only paying like about $2,000 a key or something, and which means it's a very affordable, and Sonder has a footprint that gives them really great locations. But then there's another group of people who look at Sonder and they've left them on the side of the road for dead because they had trouble like putting together a quarterly income statement. I think Francis as a CEO is sort of like a generational leader, but the company has had some struggles. How should we think about the Sonder deal?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think both of those perspectives have some merit. We did lots of diligence, not just about the space and the customer segment that really gravitates towards that sort of product, but about the financial health. And as I'm sure you read in the press, there was lots of financial engineering that moved in parallel to our transaction that gave us confidence about the financial viability of Sonder. I really think about it as just the next step in what has been a pretty remarkable story in Marriott's history in the extended stay space, dating back to our acquisition of Residence Inn decades ago. We've developed that expertise. We've expanded that expertise across multiple price points, multiple products, multiple length of stay. And I think this is part of that natural evolution.
Okay. So out of curiosity, Sean, I understand if you maybe can't put yourself in one of the camps that he listed in the beginning, camp 1 or camp 2, but I'm in camp 2, like completely. I was on the side, like left Sonder for dead. This was a lifeline deal that Sonder should have done a lot better stewardship with, I think.
Yeah, I think one example is there are players out there that are making this model work. I mean, by model, I mean apartment style stays with a hotel-like service. Placemaker is one that continues to grow. They say they're profitable. They have good backers. There's a couple in Europe, and so I don't think it's the fundamental product concept from the consumer's perspective that just can't work. It was something about they just could not get out of this spiral financially, that when they were in the pandemic, they were on the hook for these long-term leases for these buildings, and they had been taken advantage of by like some commercial real estate sharks, essentially, in agreeing to some of these terms. And then when the pandemic hit and they couldn't meet their occupancy, they still had to pay on these leases. And it just seemed they should have. What I don't understand is why Marriott, it wasn't clear to Marriott when they went in and did due diligence that they couldn't have, that they had the runway, that they sort of pivoted out of these, get out of the contracts, and they were going to be able to pull forward and be like a placemaker. And so I just have to wonder what was going on. Like, why they could never get a quarterly income statement when they struggled so much to get one that was properly audited. They lost their CFOs and this summer their CEO as well. So, I mean, Will, I mean, what kind of, what pops into your mind, like you, Brandy, or Michael, about this?
Well, Brandy has done this before, so we've got a front row seat at a large urban operator.
Awesome.
Well, and this is, I mean, I think that if we go back to like the real root cause of this is kind of one of the final paths that all of these companies that raised a ton of VC money, and like Romy was in this category. We couldn't quite get the VC funding levels that Sonder got, but maybe that was all coming to be a good thing in the end. But it started this precedent, right? You're talking about these commercial developers. Well, yeah, because Sonder went out armed with a seemingly endless amount of cash and a directive to grow at all costs, secure the leases. I mean, I remember when we were like going up against them for deals in Miami Beach, and like they were able to throw whatever out there. And, so that was kind of a precedent that was set. And then you're locked into these really probably aggressive leases. And we had some success renegotiating when we had leases to get them to be management agreements, but Sonder has 10,000, 12,000 keys. Like, you're not going to be able to necessarily do that with all of them. And also you have much more sophisticated and like institutional landlords that definitely have lawyered those contracts to the hilt. And also the ecosystem of the company that you've built around it, right? They're building out their PMS, they have these really expensive employees, they have a lot of attention on brand, they're growing internationally at like breakneck speed. So I think it was just this, like, the train was impossible to get off of. And then they've raised too much money, so you can't go back to the well. That's why they had to go public. And then what is the next well? The next well was Marriott, but that obviously isn't like the final plug, because it was an insurmountable hurdle, I think, to get over.
Yeah. And lease ARB windows, we saw it in WeWork. We saw it in all of short-term rentals. Lease ARB does work, but there's only windows. It's not a perpetual business. And if you couldn't convert into management contracts, even then, I still think they converted most of their contracts. I could be wrong there, but they still were unable to turn a profit. And one other thing, going back to Marriott signed a 20-year term with them. Like, if you want to test the waters and see how this thing goes, sign a 3-year, a 5-year, but you signed a 20-year term. I know that came with cash, so that's probably why the term had to be so long. But this 20-year licensing deal ended in less than 20 months. So back to the diligence point, obviously they missed some flashing red lights, if that's the case. Or they're waiting to buy it out of bankruptcy. One or the other.
Yeah. And well, also you have just like the total exodus of leadership from Sonder. So like, who is driving the boat? And I think when there starts to be this kind of franticness at the end, people aren't necessarily making, good decisions. They don't have the counsel to do so.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Sean, before we wrap, any other comments, questions, concerns, or obviously for the listeners, viewers, they're just going to have to go to skift.com, check for any updates on the story, obviously, from you. So what would you like to leave the listeners
Brandy and Michael really hit on so many of the key points, very sharply observed. So thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I learned things too. So.
Well, we're excited to see how the story evolves and read your future articles on this, because I have a feeling this story is going to be in the news cycle for some time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
100%. Yeah. Sean, job security. It's all good. No, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us, Sean, and we're always welcome back on the pod. We appreciate all the work that you put into these stories and keeping us informed. So appreciate you joining us today.
Yes, thanks. I hope to see the new tattoo sometime, and I hope nice to meet all of you. Take care.
Of course.
Bye.
All right. Later. Sean's a great guy.
Yeah, that was really, I love getting people. It's like the Skift universe. We're having our crossovers, which I think is so fun.
Yeah, the multiverse is real.
The multiverse. Yeah.
Just casually pinging the PR department at Marriott for comments. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
we haven't reached that level at GMH ourselves, but now as part of Skift, it's pretty cool.
You guys weren't sending PR pings on LinkedIn?
I think we probably have tried. I know I've tried. But don't have the pull that Sean does for sure.
Yeah. Well, I would love to get to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brandy.
Oh no, I was gonna say we have some great LinkedIn and YouTube comments. So I think everybody has an opinion on this,
100%.
regardless of what side of hospitality you're in. I think it's gonna be fun to see people clash a little bit.
100%. Well, to bring up some of those comments, I would love to, obviously, one of our super fans, Terry White, who usually always, Terry, we haven't seen you in a while, so it's good to see you again, but always comments in. And so he thinks that this is 100% on Marriott. How could they have even entered the deal with Sonder in the first place? Basically, is the comment. So I'm with Terry. I'm not gonna lie, I'm with Terry on this one. Like, it was a lifeline. It was a great lifeline, and I'm sure we could find old clips of us all being like, yeah. And I was definitely on that train, in hope that, like we've always said on this pod, we don't want anyone in this sector to fail. We don't like failure. It doesn't look good for the rest of the short-term rental industry. But the writing was on the wall. So
I'll take the contrarian view. I think it was. We'll see how it plays out. We're in the fire right now. But to take an option on the biggest urban operator in North America, and it was an inexpensive option, relatively speaking, for Marriott to place, I still think they're going to end up owning the brand. I don't know if they're able to convert even half or a quarter of the existing properties to franchised, flagged Marriott properties, Marriott Apartments brand. I think ultimately it will be okay. The only thing that I think they missed, and I don't know if it's their fault or Sonder's, but I said it earlier, Sonder repeatedly struggled to report financials, period, full stop. So that
not good look for a public company
in and of itself is not good, right? So did Marriott get kind of hook, lined, and sinkered by smooth talkers that said, oh, it's fine, we're just figuring out some things, we've had a couple changes at CFO, we'll figure it out, it's okay, business is okay, or there's no way Marriott knowingly got into a deal that was this ugly without a contingency plan of taking it in themselves. But something, and I'm sure the news will come out in the next couple of days, but something had to have happened for it to have gone this poorly.
My question for both of you, though, is, and based on your statement, Michael, of potentially Marriott acquiring the brand, why would they even want the brand after this debacle? Well,
that's why I said it might roll into apartments now, right?
Yeah,
so
I'm like,
brand might be done.
I thought that was kind of the whole point of Marriott Apartments by Marriott Bonvoy, was that they were going to roll Sonder under that umbrella of the loyalty, but they kept it separate, and I think that actually is really going to bite them in the ass right now.
Well, no one's going to know the difference if you show up to a Sonder apartment that gets converted to Apartments by Marriott. No one's going to know like this building was a Sonder. I mean, Romy was in Sonder buildings that were something else before that. It's guests don't know. I think that, but the brand is very tarnished. And I really love the Reddit threads. But what I think is going to, I do agree that Marriott probably should have had more eyes wide open in this scenario, but I do think that something dramatic happened because of what a total PR nightmare this is for Marriott. Like, Sonder doesn't care, right? Like, they're just kind of done. Like Ashot, I think, was saying this, like, it's a huge blow to Marriott's reputation, and Sonder, like, what do they care if they're filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy? Like, it doesn't matter anymore. So that's why, they probably should have known something, but I can't wait to see how dramatic it is. And is it something like Sonder literally just like ran out of cash and didn't even have if you're going to file for bankruptcy, that months in advance, and you have to plan for that. and it's expensive. So I feel like something really dramatic happened.
I think it's on
Maybe.
the side of both, where something dramatic happened, but they also didn't speak up about the cash, and we're like, oh, we'll figure out something. Like, there's always a way, right? And then they just never say anything, and then it's Sunday afternoon, and they're like, well, our credit card declined, and we have $0 in the bank. So good luck, everybody.
And just as a cover our ass, we are not suggesting trading on Marriott or Sonder or anything.
Nope.
Financial advice is not given on this show.
Never.
So please don't take any of this as that.
Yes, this is strictly our opinions, especially because we don't want to ruin Sean's reputation in the industry with getting CEOs on big stages at Skift. So definitely our opinions. We love seeing the live comments. A shot, Terry. I'm glad that you're playing golf every Monday. I'm sad that you're playing golf while we're broadcasting, but we're glad that you're back and this week. And of course, Tiffany from New Orleans. Shout out
hello,
to
Tiffany.
B. I think this is going to be a story we're going to be talking about on the pod for a bit, especially when it comes to revisiting our predictions from earlier this year. So that's going to be fun to cover. But for all the listeners and viewers that probably are used to a little bit more data, a little bit more insights, just an FYI, since Jamie was out this week and I stepped in because of the story, next week we will be covering the big 3 OTA earning calls. So Booking.com, Expedia, and of course Airbnb. And Jamie's going to bring all of the data with him. He's going to give us a good couple stats of the week. So it's going to be exciting for next Monday. But yeah, this was a pretty big story to have to cover today.
Yeah. And I know that everybody that listens to the show is in the hospitality industry. So this is probably, preaching to the choir. But if you're interacting with any Marriott employees or Sonder employees in the wild, a little grace. This is not their fault. I don't think the Titanium Bonvoy members are listening to this that are shouting that they've had to wait in line for 2 hours. But in case they are, it is not that person's fault. So a
100%.
little bit of kindness.
But if you run into the executives of Sonder, maybe you can say a few words.
Yeah, exactly. You can place the blame where it lies. And really, really interesting. It'll be interesting to see if anything is filed by the end of today. We'll see.
Yeah. Like I said earlier in the episode, we don't want anyone to fail, but as things come crashing and burning, this is kind of our sector's we crashed type of, conversation. So hopefully we don't see this model or this example of companies like this moving forward, that people move quickly but diligently with good stewardship of the finance, capital, whatever that they raise. Because obviously we want people to succeed. It only makes our industry do better. So give a little bit of grace, as critical as we can be on this pod. I'll speak for myself, as critical as I can be. I'm not in the camp as Michael is, but definitely some grace. But it's good to see you guys again on Monday.
Welcome back.
I kind of miss this. I might have to come back a little bit more often.
Well, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say to wrap up, I'm most curious in how this plays out with all of the major flags licensing deals, because that's been the trend over the past couple of years. So that's the thing I'm going to be keeping my eye on the most.
For sure. 100% couldn't agree more. Well, outside of that, anything exciting this week for the two of you outside of keeping your eyes and ears open on this story?
No, I will be. If you can't get a hold of me, it's because I'm deep in this Reddit thread. I love this kind of stuff. Like, that's where the real juicy nuggets are happening.
Oh, 100%. We should have brought some of those comments on.
Just trying to survive the cold that is hitting pretty much the whole country right now. So in November to get into the 20s in Alabama is unheard of. So let's
I've been putting off buying my official long puffer winter jacket, and I'm gonna go do that today.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Good luck. When I was sleeping in the mountains on Friday night, I woke up and it was like 2 a.m, 18 degrees. No big deal. Yeah, it was a little chilly. So I feel you. But Love it. Great episode this week. As always, for our live viewers and listeners that listen on the podcast version, thank you so much for your support. Shout out to our loyalists, our super fans, Paul Manzi, Terry White. Many of you who support the show obviously make it so much more fun to engage live. If you don't engage live, but you listen, thank you so much for supporting the podcast on the audio platforms of your choice. If you do love the show, make sure to leave a 5-star review. You can email podcasts with an S at the end at skift.com to send in any information, any tips, or any other topics you'd like us to discuss in the future. And with that being said, see you guys on the podcast next week.